You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Do you need a car? Been shopping only to be turned down because of bad credit, low credit, no credit, bankruptcy, or divorce? Guess what? Today's your lucky day, because now you can buy a car, truck, or SUV, just about any vehicle. It's true. Bad credit doesn't matter. No credit doesn't matter. Bankruptcy or divorce, it just doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, your job is your ticket to your new vehicle. We're Auto Credit Express, and we've helped thousands of people just like you. Antonio H. told us, great company, got me connected, and the day I went in, I drove off in the car I wanted. 100% worth your time. Need a car? Get started now and drive off as early as today. Just text FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911 right now to get started. That's FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911. Auto financing the easy way. Text FINANCE to 357-911.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com. The world around us is an amazing place, filled with beauty and with science. But let's face it, sometimes the science can be so confusing that it takes a PhD to understand it. Well, you're in luck. I just happen to have a PhD. Come and take a seat. Perhaps I can explain the world around us in a way we all can understand. Welcome to Conversations in Science. I'm Dr. Judy L. Mohr. Call me Doc. Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Conversations in Science. If you are new to the show, well, hey, guess what? I really do have a PhD. I really do. Trust me, I really do. And for those of you who are new to the show, well, the way this works is that I do the best I can to explain science in a way, well, we all can understand, but I'm not alone. I always have help. Jessie, where are you?
What's up, Doc?
Hey, Jess. Jessie Sanders, my producer. She's always on the other end of the line, making sure that I don't go too much into technobabble, because I have a habit of doing that, don't I, Jess?
All you scientist types do.
Yeah, we do. But you know what, Jess?
What?
There are sometimes when we're talking about science, it's not about just how the science works and what's coming out there. Sometimes it's about understanding what new technologies are coming up. And guess what?
What's that, Doc?
We have a guest with us today. We have Effie Seiberg. I hope I said that correctly. Welcome, Effie.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Hey, so Effie, why don't you tell our listeners what it is you do and why we are so excited to talk to you?
So my day job is as a consultant, and I work in Silicon Valley with a lot of tech startups that are really on the cutting edge of applications of new technology and sort of looking at how it changes our world today and in the future.
See, she's in the best position to tell us about some of these technologies coming up, isn't she? She's great. Fantastic.
Yes, she is. I was just surmising with Judy while I was out sneaking in a few French fries because hubby's on a health kick before we recorded that would my sunglasses one day hold my GPS information instead of me having to use my phone or the GPS in my car?
That is not only possible, but has already happened. Lots of companies have been working with different types of heads-up displays like that.
It's already happened. We already have this technology.
We already have this technology. I think for the most part, the applications that have been created have been pulling information into a little viewer that sits at the top of, say, a pair of sunglasses or regular glasses. Google Glass was the first one to try this a couple of years ago. It wound up a pretty big market failure because I think there were some nuances of how the technology works in people's day-to-day lives and in the social implications that were not quite thoroughly thought out. But different companies have been experimenting with this, and there's no reason to think that this wouldn't someday be something that you could buy at your local, drugstore next to the prescription glasses for reading, and then you have your heads-up display glasses.
Wow. I had no idea that the technology was already out there. I am like, wow.
Well, I'd heard of Google Glasses, but I'd also heard that there was a myriad of issues with them.
Oh, so many. I was actually working at Google when we were trying them out internally before they were out with like a limited release to the market, and people kept running into behavior quirks that humans have that really affect how the technology winds up being used and subsequently perceived. So one funny story was that they had integrated a bunch of gestures into the glasses so that if you, for example, quickly look down, it would take a photo, and if you quickly look up again, it would post it to your social media feed. And people realized that they could take advantage of this if someone was, for example, at a urinal wearing, their Google Glass, and someone else said, called out to them and said hi, their head would quickly go from pointed down to pointed up and take a very inappropriate picture and post it. So there were a lot of kinks to work out, because a lot of times the way the technology is set up doesn't really take account for the fact that people are weird, people are pranksters, people have interesting behaviors that, even if the technology is completely benign, behaviors not always are.
Oh, that is hilarious.
I just had to mute my mic there for a moment because I was just pissing myself laughing. Oh my god, that's so hilarious!
They fixed that one. They fixed that one before it went out for the initial release, and that was like 2012, I think, ish, something like that.
Oh.
So before anyone outside the company got it, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but while it was inside the company, the idea was to only post it to the company's internal social media network, which was also Google created, and that way you could talk about things that were still confidential at the time. So I don't actually know if it's a better thing or a worse thing that was the photo that came up internally for folks.
It definitely would have been riots of laughter going through because they would have all known how the image was created. Oh dear. Oh man. Oh dear. Oh, woe is me.
So a lot of times you get that thing, right, where like the technology works just fine, but we as humans still need to figure out a good way to integrate it into our lives in a way that makes sense for how we behave. So there's tons of technologies out there that completely exist, and they're just not they're not in common use because that particular social application hasn't been sufficiently well refined to avoid snafus like that one.
Now, I suppose another side effect would be of sunglasses, especially if you're integrating it into sunglasses, is the fact that we don't tend to wear sunglasses inside. Because we can't see. And I suppose you could always use the sunglass lenses that change and become, the photosensitive lenses. I suppose you could always use something like that, but that would be a little bit off-putting for me to be looking at somebody who actually has just normal glass on, say, for example, but I'm seeing the reflection or something that they're seeing coming through. That, I don't know about you, but that would be seriously off-putting.
Well, I think one thing that we've seen in general with this kind of technology is that whether you, the person who is interacting with someone who's using that technology, can see what's on a screen or not, it becomes a little off-putting when even today in conversation, if you have someone with a smartwatch, an Apple Watch or whatever, and if they're constantly looking at their watch while you're talking to them, it's off-putting, right? Because you're like, really? Like, this is more important than the conversation we're having, like, standing in front of each other? This is pretty rude. So even when we come up with, like, the overall idea of how the technology works seamlessly in our lives, there's still a whole nother set of behaviors that's almost like human etiquette for how are you not a complete, completely rude to everyone around you while you are engaging with these new frontiers, if you will.
Personally, I have to admit, I love silencing my cell phone. I rarely actually turn it off. But trust me, I know how to silence my iPhone.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I mean, was it about maybe a year or 2 years ago? I was in a restaurant with my husband and my daughter, and my daughter actually leaned over to me at the time. So she would have been about 10, 11 at this time, and she looked at me and pointed to this couple who would have been probably in their 50s, and said, "Don't they like talking to one another?" Because both of them, they were sitting there on their smartphones and they were just doing whatever on their phones. She's like, "Don't they like talking to one another?" And it's like, well, I don't know. Well, why are they on their phones? I don't know, sweetie. It's
and it's also interesting because sometimes
obviously those social informations.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because sometimes we see that and we think people are being super rude, but I have a friend who's very hard of hearing, and some days, she's having a worse day and it's just tougher for her, so we'll text instead of talk because it's a more efficient way to have the conversation, and we're not ignoring each other. We are interacting face to face, but we are using technology as the go-between. So like those same nuances of etiquette, they change and then they change again, and it's lots of new rules that keep coming up, and sometimes I think they're changing faster than how we all sort of know how to cope with them.
I have to admit, I'd never considered the idea of using a texting to help bridge that gap with someone who is hearing impaired. I'd never considered that. That's actually really awesome. Sorry, my brain just went bunny leap and went, oh wow, that I'd never considered that. That's cool. All right, so where are some of the other, besides the sunglasses? I mean, because we were sitting there thinking, oh, sunglasses. What are some of the other technologies that we can either look forward to coming up or that we really, they're already there?
Well, one of the things that's already there, and some people are using it, some people aren't yet, and most people who are using it aren't even aware that it's happening. Everybody today, more or less, has a smartphone with them everywhere they go. And one of the really interesting things about smartphones is that they have lots and lots of sensors on them. So your cell phone has a GPS, so it knows where you are. It has an accelerometer, which is the thing that lets it know, is it moving quickly or not, which is helpful for a lot of games. If you need to, shake your phone to catch a Pokemon or whatever it is, it knows that it's got that kind of movement happening. There's a gyroscope, so it knows which way it's pointing, which way is up. There's usually a light sensor, which helps know, should the screen automatically brighten or darken depending on your environment. And so many other things that are already baked in there. And what's interesting is there's this revolution happening kind of quietly in technology for artificial intelligence and machine learning. And when I say artificial intelligence, I don't mean like conscious computers rising up to, take over Terminator style. It's a phrase used for a mechanism where a machine algorithm can learn. Essentially, like as it gets new information, it updates how it reacts to that information. And this means the easiest way to think about why we need to care about that is that right now, machines can take in loads and loads and loads of very messy data and figure something out from it. Some very deep computation that used to be very hard, but now, as these things are learning, they're becoming easier and more systematic. So that sounds very vague, right? So what does that even mean? So a simple example is that your phone now has sort of like a pedometer. If it's in your pocket, most phones by now have software that will tell you how many steps you've walked. And the phone can figure this out based on how it's been bumbling along, in your pocket, in your hand, in your bag, as you're walking. People have managed to figure out what that type of movement looks like when you're getting in that data between the gyroscope and the GPS and the accelerometer, and sometimes a few other things as well. And so even though your phone has nothing to do with your feet, People know the types of movements that happen to a phone, getting jostled or bumped around, and they can tell you this is how many steps you walked.
Mine's always 100% wrong. Would you like to know why?
Why is that?
I'm in a wheelchair. It can't account for
Then
that.
it's absolutely wrong, yeah. And it's very far from perfect for people who are walking on 2 feet or on, 2 feet plus crutches, or, if you have this strapped to your wrist and you're walking with a baby carriage or a shopping cart or something like that, it'll also go wrong. And so it's far from perfect, but this is something that's already there. And there's some uses for this that have become really interesting. So not just for walking, but when you're in a car, for example, there's technology that exists today from, the way your phone is moving around and what the sensors are getting information-wise that can tell someone this person is a safe driver, or this person is a crazy speed demon who keeps slamming on their brakes and playing with their phone throughout, their commute to work every day. And maybe you don't want to give them car insurance because they'd be a really high risk.
Now my brain's going, how can I avoid all of that information?
Yeah. But generally, those are opt-in, right? I don't think anyone's spying on your driving habits without your consent. But some insurance companies are actually putting out like programs that are like, if you put this, this app on your phone, that lets us see how safely you drive, and as a result, give you discounts. So I don't think it's so much a privacy concern. If you're not into it, I wouldn't worry. But it is a thing that your phone is being used for today, and that's technology that you have in your pocket right now.
Yeah, I have to admit, the smartphone, if I just look at the technology and where that smartphone has grown, just from the point when I had my first cell phone, which would have been, okay, I got my first cell phone when I was about 18 years ago, when I was pregnant with my son. And so, yeah, okay, I know Jess had her cell phone significantly longer than I had, but even then, it's gone from the button and the clam. And I'm sorry, I'm still affectionately attached to the clam design, but I'm a bit of a Star Trek geek. There's nothing like seeing an episode of the old original episodes of Star Trek, and you see him flip the communicator open. There's nothing like it. And when I got my first clam, I was like, "Yeah, can I do this?" No, it didn't quite work. But that's okay. And then of course now we're carrying cameras, and I have to admit I've become a lot more of a shutterbug because of it, because I've got a camera just there, and it's a decent camera. It's not pathetic.
And it already changes how we interact with each other. Right now, if I see something... So the other day, I was at this weird grocery store, and there was this thing of bedroom slippers that were covered in sequins. And I thought that was ridiculous and hilarious. And if I had seen that, say, 20 years ago, I might or might not remember to tell my boyfriend about that. But now I took a photo so I could just send it to him immediately, so he could also see these wacky slippers. Like, what are these doing in a grocery store? We don't really know.
Well, the other night I was driving home, and from a friend, I was visiting a friend who lives in Texas on a military base. I passed a cow on a military base, out grazing. It just struck me as odd that this military base had cattle crossings and cows out grazing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, Jess. New Zealand cows grazing, we are surrounded by sheep. Sorry. That to me is nothing. That's normal.
Gotta get my lamb chops from somewhere, Judy.
Yeah, I know. All right, so our smartphones have become these amazing technology beasts, and I think my husband's now installed a seismograph type app on his phone. That'll be partly because we've gone a bit earthquake crazy around this place, dare I say it. Yeah, we're almost as bad as those old films that I've seen with California and bits and pieces where they're all, we've had an earthquake. Let's everybody take a bet as to where the epicenter was and how deep and how big. And then that's pretty much what Christchurch, New Zealand has become over the last couple of years. But what about some of these other things, some of these other old technologies that we've seen, like Knight Rider? Okay, I'm showing my age here. I want KITT. Maybe not the...
Well, we're getting there too. I mean, I don't think we're all the way up to KITT. I think we have a little more to go on the side of personality and problem solving. But self-driving cars are here today and have been for a while. And there are some, I mean, they're still in testing, and some of the features from that are going, I think Tesla has some sort of auto drive mode, which isn't quite self-driving, but is pretty close. And that's with cars that are out right now. And one of the areas that people are now predicting are going to be the first to really en masse adopt self-driving cars is actually the trucking industry, where it's a lot safer rather than having a human behind the wheel for, let's just say, 12 hours straight, which is not delightful. You can absolutely have a machine behind the wheel for 12 hours straight. No problem.
Okay. I'm blinking and I'm stunned again. We already have self-driving cars. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, there's a number of companies in the US who have been working on them and testing them and developing them. And I actually heard a really interesting story about a self-driving car in Australia. So just like whenever you have a new technology, you don't always know what you don't know when you put it out in the real world and how it goes wrong. And so what these cars do, they have lots and lots of cameras on their roof that spin around so that they're constantly getting data from what's around them and sort of pinging out and sort of creating an idea of the three-dimensional landscape they're in. But in Australia, they ran into, I don't remember which company this was, but they ran into a problem with testing where they hit a kangaroo. And generally, these cars, they're actually very good at not hitting a human that runs into the road or another car that runs into the road. But what happened with the kangaroo that they didn't think to account for initially is that kangaroos jump. So if I'm just taking a picture of what's in front of me and something is several feet off the ground, and I don't know that that type of thing can be several feet off the ground, I might just assume that it's much further away if I'm getting a photo of it in midair, and it's just that much bigger because this car doesn't necessarily have explicit depth perception, just implicit depth perception. So I thought the kangaroo was much, much further. And when you're thinking self-driving car, jumping kangaroos is probably not the first thing you think of anyway.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no, I have to admit, I mean, I have driven in Australia and yeah, there's a couple of areas when you're in Melbourne in particular, where you're driving down the road and you might actually see a kangaroo and they're jumping across a highway. You're traveling at 100 kilometers per hour, which I think is about 55, maybe a bit more miles per hour.
It's enough to be a really bad time for the kangaroo.
and kangaroos are really bad for cars. Really, really bad. And yeah.
Probably not much fun for Roo either.
Yeah.
No.
There's a number of companies that are working on developing this sort of in parallel. So Google's parent company, Alphabet, has a sub-company, I guess, called Waymo that's working on this. Uber is working on this. Several car manufacturers are working on this. And there's a number of cities, especially in the US, that have become really good test beds for self-driving cars. They're out and about.
I wonder, I mean, New Zealand tends to get a lot of the technology really quickly because we are a very vast demographic region. Within a small area, you can have, lots of different ethnicities and lots of different age brackets, but within a very small population. So that's why we tend to see technology before the rest of the world. For example, the FPOS, the electronic transaction. We're almost a cashless society in New Zealand because of it. And we've had FPOS for, I think near on 20, 25 years now. We've even had, what was it, the credit cards? You know how they have now the computer chip in them? Most of the credit cards do.
Sure.
We've had that technology since 1987. And most people don't realize that that technology has been around for that long. So the fact that we're coming across all these technologies like the car and the sunglasses, I'm sorry, that I suppose if I had thought about it, it would have made sense because virtual reality is becoming quite a big thing. So I don't know why I just went, didn't really think about it. But the fact that we're seeing all these technologies come through, this is, they've been around. Jess.
Yeah. Yes, Doc.
I'm looking at the time. Do we need to be taking a break? Because I'm getting really excited here, and I've got quite a few questions mulling around in my head.
All right, why don't we take a break, and we can deal with all your crazy questions on the other side.
Thank you.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Do you need a car? Been shopping only to be turned down because of bad credit, low credit, no credit, bankruptcy, or divorce? Guess what? Today's your lucky day because now you can buy a car, truck, or SUV, just about any vehicle. It's true. Bad credit doesn't matter. No credit doesn't matter. Bankruptcy or divorce, it just doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, your job is your ticket to your new vehicle. We're Auto Credit Express, and we've helped thousands of people just like you. Antonio H. told us, great company, got me connected, and the day I went in, I drove off in the car I wanted. 100% worth your time. Need a car? Get started now and drive off as early as today. Just text FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911 right now to get started. That's FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911. Auto financing the easy way. Text FINANCE to 357-911.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, But even then, he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to know, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Thank you for hanging in there with us, right, Doc?
Yes. No, it was great. My brain's just going constantly, so many ideas.
Okay, now, Effie, one of the things you said in your writings, I believe, was that if you're going to put something in a book today that's not going to come out for a couple years, you need to really think outside the box and go way out there.
Absolutely. So in my other life, when I'm not a consultant, I write science fiction and fantasy, and I'm collaborating with Dan Cobalt and a number of other wonderful people from a lot of other fields on a book called Putting the Science in Fiction, which is coming out actually exactly a month from today. And
it is! I know, I'm so excited about it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And it's pretty much when you have people writing science fiction, things in the future, people are really good at coming up with fantastical ideas and things that science today kind of doesn't let you do at all. But what's interesting is whenever you get a cell phone equivalent in a lot of science fiction, like you mentioned the old Star Trek communicators, things haven't actually gone far enough where I'll read a science fiction book and I'll see someone has, let's say, like they call it like a bracer or something on their arm, and it's sort of the phone equivalent. And it's doing things that have been out there in the technology world for like 15 years. So if your work is happening 100 years in the future, I hope we've picked up a few new tricks since then. Like, you really have to go crazy with your imagination, just because there's so much that technology can already do today that people aren't really familiar with because it's not yet like a topic of conversation or not, fully rolled out, but it's been a thing in at least some areas, some industries for a while. Like, I think 3D printing has been around for about 30 years.
Yeah, it's been around, definitely. 3D printing has been used now to build things like valves and stuff like that for medicine. They are looking at doing lots of technology associated with 3D printing, including the different materials that you can use. They're even building houses now with 3D printing using concrete.
Yeah. So if
military.
you're writing science fiction, you've got to do your research and see sort of where technology is today, because there's so much cool stuff that's out already.
Yeah.
And your job is to write something even cooler.
Using 3D printing.
Yeah, that they probably use that 3D with the concrete, 3D printing with the concrete that's out there. I hate to think what sort of messes the hoses go through, but yeah, 3D printing, it's definitely there. And I mean, if you're going to take a look at that, you need to really up your game. In terms of, okay, so like we're thinking about things with communication. We've been talking about cell phones, and I was so with it. I'm still sunglasses. They're already there. What? But one of the movies that I happen to love, I think it's especially the newer version of it, is Total Recall with Colin Farrell. And they have in there is their phone is in the hand. It's physically subdermal, so it's physically been surgically implanted in their hand. And at one point they press it to the glass. From a scientific perspective, I'm like, don't know how that would actually work. But would that be something like what you're talking about is far enough in the future?
So I have to admit, I haven't seen the new Total Recall. And the old one, I think I saw long enough ago that I can't quite remember. So that they press their hand to glass, and then what happens?
It's basically a video phone call. It's basically they take any glass surface and they press their hand to the glass, and it becomes an instant screen. Now, I know you can actually have screens that are made of glass. That I do know that you can do. But in terms of it actually creating a signal from your hand or from a device that's actually under your skin and becoming the device, the audio device or those bits and pieces, I'm not sure about how that would work, but
well, I think that one's a little further off than what we have today, but we do have some sort of pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that are working towards it. There's a lot of there's people that like to call themselves body hackers that like to actually play around with implanting technological devices under their skin. I actually have met a couple people who have a tiny magnet implanted under a fingertip, and that helps them detect if a wire is live or not, because the electric current produces a small magnetic field. You've got things that can transmit short distances. Actually, a couple months ago, I was ill, and as one of my tests, I had to swallow a tiny capsule camera to just go through my system and take photos. And that camera was transmitting to another device that I wore on me like a backpack. So there's some transmission going on, and that device I then had to hand back in to the doctors. So I don't know that precise cell phone setup is there today, and I think that actually does have some stuff that's beyond where we are. But considering the bits of things that are moving forward, I don't know that it's that far out.
You had to swallow a camera. Wow.
It was a really tiny camera. It was like it was the size and shape of a pill.
Think about the size and shape
really
of your
has.
Doc,
Wow.
think the size and shape of an 800 milligram ibuprofen type thing.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fine. I was just sitting there thinking about the nanotechnology, because nanotechnology, when I was working as a researcher, was becoming very much the focus. Obviously, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And at the time, I think we were looking at about 6 years ago now, they actually had a flying bee. You know, they created a bee out of this nanotechnology. That is a remote control vehicle, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the mechanics and the electronics that have to go into these things. If we're now generating cameras that can actually be swallowed like a pill, and we're putting them in, that technology of nanotechnology has dramatically jumped over the last couple of years. I'm just stunned.
Yeah. There's
excited.
crazy things happening today.
All right, so what other insights can you give us about some of the technologies that are possibly coming out that we can go, give me now?
I think some of the technologies you're going to be hearing more about in sort of coming up. One of them is blockchain. This is a type of encryption, and it suddenly got very, very big when it was used as the sort of underlying mechanism of Bitcoin and other digital currencies. So that kind of it's both a security feature and a sort of a storage of what the transactions have been. That kind of technology, I think, is being used for more and more contexts. I think other things with artificial intelligence and machine learning are going to be very big. Lots of industries are using these for different types of focus. Like we talked a little bit about the data to show, are you a safe driver? But there's also things coming in that are like, can you get a chatbot that's actually useful for you as a customer to get help from? Or can you sift through 1 million Yelp reviews without having to read all of them and actually get a sense of what the important sentiments are about your business or the service you provide or whatever it is. Same thing for like going through legal discovery. Instead of you sitting down and reading 1 million pages of stuff, can we figure out a way to find the stuff we need using an algorithm? So in all these different fields, AI, machine learning, and all of this is based on giant amounts of data crunching to figure out something useful. I think 3D printing is going to be much bigger, although I think initially we thought it was going to be absolutely everywhere. And I think I read that that IKEA is coming up with some weird new chair that scans your butt so it can 3D print like the most comfortable seat for you. I don't know if that's been verified, but 3D printing has been used, as you'd mentioned, a lot in medicine. And I think that's going to only continue a lot more because now you can get whatever the thing is that precisely fits that patient's required, shape. And we've got 3D printing happening more on the space station. When, something goes wrong, you need a specific tool. You can't bring every tool you could ever possibly need or every spare piece you could ever possibly need. Some of them, when you need one, you print it and you use it and you're done. You've just saved a whole lot of space and weight on your spaceship. So these are all happening. The autonomous cars are going to be big.
They still have to. Yeah, I don't know if about saving the weight because they still have to bring up the raw materials, but definitely
they
space.
Do.
I mean, fitting in something that's, say, a cube of raw material, and you print that, it suddenly can be the size of your whole 30-inch computer monitor, if you happen to have a 30-inch computer monitor. that is a lot of space. And so,
and also you don't need to bring one of everything because you're not going to use one of everything. You're going to use, let's say, 5 things, and you just don't know which they are yet. So bring enough material for let's say 7.
Okay, so let's jump a little bit into science fiction for a little bit. What sort of things do you really wish that you've seen in either science fiction or read it in science fiction that you really wish we actually had?
Ooh.
I got one.
Go.
The food replicator, because I hate cooking dinner.
I think replicator of some description, I think most of us are like, give it to me now.
That would be amazing. I'm a terrible cook, so that would save a lot of problems here. I really don't like plane travel, and so I would like a teleporter, please. It would make my life so much simpler.
The teleporter would be really good and really handy for lots of things because, dare I say it, the cost of travel coming from New Zealand. Okay, going to Australia, it's not so bad because we're quite close to Australia, but for me to go anywhere into the Northern Hemisphere, it's thousands of dollars. It's not cheap. A teleporter would be fantastic because not only would I save in money, I would also save in time because going to the UK, it's actually a 24-hour flight. People don't realize that, but it is. It takes a full day. Never mind, you actually lose a day because of the international dateline, but it takes a full day to get to the UK.
And how amazing would it be to say, today I want to go to the Tate in London, and I'll get up, teleport over there at a time appropriate to the museum opening, spend the day, and then be home and go back to bed in my own house. That'd be great.
It'd be fantastic. That would be awesome. There's so much technology out there that is obviously just creating, I don't know, life, making it fantastic, as well as some other things. Now, to flip, here's a question. So we've gone through and we've just sort of asked what technologies we would love to see. Dare I ask it, what technologies do you honestly hope we never see? Yeah, I'm mean.
There are some. Oh, I got you. There's some dystopias I've read where people's inner thoughts are read by some sort of tyrannical government or computer system and sort of optimized that way. And I think that it is right now very healthy to have a barrier from what's on the inside of your head and what comes out. I think that would be quite chilling if it came to pass.
Minority Report. Yeah, let's not have Minority Report. That would be good. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know what Minority Report is, and Jessie, you're probably one of them. Yep. Minority Report was, I think it was the movie with Tom Cruise where you had the psychics or whatever it is, and they were predicting what actions you would take in the future, and they were arresting people based on what actions they believe you would take in the future, not things that you had actually done, just things that they thought you would do. And it was completely, no, can we have that barrier?
I like the barrier of keeping certain thoughts to myself, because trust me, nobody needs all my crazy thoughts.
Yeah, I think just as a society, we'd all be better off.
Although I would like to read my cat's brain once in a while, just so I know what they're actually thinking. Because goodness knows, I put a lot of words into their furry little mouths.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So reading thoughts of an animal would be great, because then we're communicating on the same language, I suppose. But
well, wouldn't you like to know what Kara's actually thinking when she's bugging you at your desk and not letting you get anything done so you could solve the issue? Kara is Doc's cat.
Well, at the moment she's curled up under the desk where it's nice and warm and toasty, and she's like, "What are you doing talking about me? Just leave me alone."
Right, but those other days when she's bugging you at your desk, this way you could just figure out what she wants, solve the problem, and go back to your day.
Yeah. Okay, so there's positives and there's negatives. Positive, negatives, okay.
But I'd like to restrict it to animals only.
That would be fun. That would be good. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about the technology and bits and pieces?
Well, if you're writing science fiction or even fantasy or science fantasy or anything that imagines things that aren't, I would love to recommend to you this book that's coming out, Putting the Science in Fiction, edited by Dan Cobalt, coming out on October 16th of this year. And it's just loads and loads of experts in various fields, such as, things not to get wrong if your characters have a plague, or things not to get wrong if you're thinking about a robot uprising, or here's how a horse actually works. It's not the same as a car. They do need to stop and pee sometimes. So this book, I'm so excited to read it.
But yeah, I've seen the table of contents, and like Effie, I'm also a contributor for this. And there's a whole sections on dementia. We were talking to Ann Lipton a couple months back, and she's got articles there about the correctness and associating with dementia and Alzheimer's. We were talking with Karen Lanning our last episode was with Karen Lanning, who has got her chapters are talking about the future of power generation and where we're going with that. And she's also got a chapter about the what was it? She called it Cli-Fi, which is basically science fiction, but bringing in things like climate change and environmental, but not taking it into the level of dystopia. It's a bit a bit different. And of course, your chapters, Effie, are looking at the cell phone and where the cell phone. Yeah, you need to be way out there.
Your science fiction cell phone isn't cool enough.
Yeah, it needs to be way out there. You need to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There are so many, and we're going to be getting quite a few others coming through that are also contributors to this book. It's an awesome book, guys. It really doesn't matter if you're a writer, honestly. Even if you're not a writer, I am really looking forward to this book because it's just taking every aspect of science where fiction tends to get it wrong. And it's just going to be an awesome, absolutely awesome.
I got a question for Effie.
Yeah, yes, shoot.
Okay, Effie, if there is one thing you've seen portrayed in common TV, social media, books, whatever, that you're sitting there going, no, it's just either wrong or it's already here. Why are you saying it's not here yet? What would it be?
Well, I think one of my pet peeves is how hacking is portrayed in media. And I understand why it's portrayed that way. And also, I think a lot of research processes are portrayed as, something that's very visually obvious and speedy. So, you'll see the hacker and, traditionally you'll have code sort of reflected on their face as though that's what screens actually do. And, they'll get this big UI that says, hack successful, I'm in. And none of that is what happens. And the vast majority of hacking nowadays happens through social hacking, which is pretty much, can you get into that person's office and find the sticky note that has their password stuck to their monitor? Or figure out what their actual, their first dog's name was, and now you can get into all their bank accounts based on that. Hacking is portrayed in a wildly unrealistic way, and I think scientific research processes. Both my parents are researchers, one physicist, one biologist, and that's not how science happens. You try lots of things, you have hypotheses. A giant breakthrough is not going to say what looks like a giant breakthrough. In a movie, because it's going to be incremental, because research is hard and takes a lot of time to get anywhere. But it's not very cinematic to show realistic research or realistic hacking, I suppose. So those are my pet peeves, but I don't know how to fix them.
I don't know if there is a way to fix them because, like you said, when you're dealing with television and things like that, they have to speed up the process. But going through and taking some shortcuts. No.
I guess it's a question of which shortcuts are you taking? Is the shortcut that you're showing this wacky UI that says hack complete, which is just not how anything works? Or is the shortcut just you saying 6 months later or 60 years later or whatever? You can I think you can choose how you portray that more efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a fun thing, and it's just, yeah. Okay, Effie, it's been fantastic. If anybody has any questions of what, the sort of the technologies we might be coming up with, or if they basically just have any questions for you, your own writing or other bits and pieces, how do people get hold of you?
Well, usually the easiest way is Twitter. I'm just at Effie S, so Effie my first name and S like my last name, or alternately you can think that I just have an entire army of Effie clones, and we are multitudes. But that's my my handle on Twitter, Effie S.
Whoa.
Or you
Effie,
can
spell that for us, please.
So E as in elephant, F as in feather, I as in iceberg, E as in elephant, and S as in salamander. So just at that for my Twitter handle, or you can go to my website, which is effieseiberg.com. So same spelling of Effie, and Seiberg is S like salamander, E like elephant, I like iceberg, B like bear, E like elephant, R like raccoon, and G like giraffe. So just effieseiberg.com. You can find ways to contact me through either of those, and I'm happy to answer questions anyone might have.
Fantastic. I think that's brilliant. Okay, Jess, last chance for questions. Have you got any questions for Effie? Any last ones?
No, I don't think so. I think I've actually, other than the sunglasses, which, like she said, should be coming to a drugstore near me sooner rather than later.
And preferably with not the ability to take photos while you're in the toilet. Please, we do not need that. Yeah, no. I think we have put another one in the can.
Bye, Effie.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye, Doc.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Conversations in Science. If that wasn't enough of a science jolt for you, well, you can catch old episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and a whole range of other popular podcast locations. In the meantime, if you have a question about science and just want to know a little bit more, feel free to contact us at the station, and that's at science@klrnradio.com. Alternatively, you can contact me on Twitter, and that's at Judy L. Mohr, or you can find me on Facebook, and that's Judy L. Mohr, or you can drop me a line through my personal website, which is judylmohr.com. I think you can see the pattern here. Meanwhile, my cohort over here...
For anyone wanting to track me down, they can follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jessie, or they can email me at the station at jessie@klrnradio.com. And they can always check out the books and authors I talk to at jessiescoffeeshop.com. Bye!
Bye, guys!